Up next, we have Professor Noel Scott, PhD, from the University of Sunshine Coast, Queensland, Australia. His research interests include the study of tourism experiences and destination management and marketing. He is a frequent speaker at academic and industry conferences, has over 300 academic publications, including 17 books, has supervised over 30 doctoral students and successful completion of their thesis, and he is on the editorial board of 10 journals, a member of the International Association of China Tourism Scholars, and a fellow of the Council of Australasian Tourism and Hospitality Education. So to Professor Noel Scott, time is yours.
Hello, can you hear me?
Loud and clear.
Great. Oh, well, thank you very much for your kind introduction, Habibi. Your English is wonderful.
Yeah, I happen to also grow up in Australia. I grew up in Adelaide.
Ah, I thought there was something good about you, and I could see it. But yes, I do apologize to everyone that unfortunately I can't speak Indonesian. I'm not very good at languages. I always tell people that I speak 3 languages: Australian, American, and English. So I do apologize. First of all, I'd like to thank the organizers of this presentation, Dr. Jia Wang and Dr. Sari. I think this initiative is a great initiative, and I think it's excellent that universities in Australia and Indonesia are working together on different projects. So congratulations to both of you, and of course to the Australian government for funding or impartial funding of this project. What I want to talk to you today about is innovation and entrepreneurship, but I want to talk perhaps the previous speaker who gave an excellent presentation. It actually made me very hungry, and so while I was listening, I went and had something to eat because I was very hungry. But I love the food that he was talking about. But his type of entrepreneurship is I would call sort of quite large scale. So he the company that these people are running is a major company with lots of investment, and that's very useful. And of course, there should be more of that innovation. But I want to talk a little bit about smaller projects, smaller innovation, and some of the problems and opportunities that I have identified in innovations in Indonesia. So if we go to the next slide, please. So the first project that or innovation that I'd like to talk about is a restaurant in Ternate that I've been lucky enough to be able to visit. So this project is a village restaurant run by a group of women from the village, and they have worked with the local government of North Maluku, I think, to help to develop this project. They've received some funding from a variety of different sources, and what they've done is they've taken a piece of land. You'll see it's got a lovely view of the island surrounding it, so the location's good, but they have then taken traditional food from the village and moved it upmarket. So they've tried to improve the standard of the restaurants, the standard of the food, and the atmosphere of the place, so that they can have tourists or in fact locals there. And this restaurant has been very successful. It's got a number of features which make it attractive, or has helped its success, including its location close to the main part of Ternate, this main city of Ternate. So it's up in the hills behind the city. It's only about a 5 or 10 minute drive. And this is, to me, an example of successful village community development. So it's an interesting village type area of innovation. Go to the next slide. Okay, here's another one that I've seen. This is, most of my examples will come from the tourism sector, which is where I do my work. So this was a village tour that I came across in West Manggarai, sort of east of Labuan Bajo. And so this is where a village has been helped by some NGO to develop a small tour. It's not a major thing, but it's a way for tourists to visit a village, and there's a number of components to it. You meet the local people, the local elders, and they welcome you, present you with a token or a gift. Then you see some of their arts and culture. So you see some dancing and some of the fighting styles they have. You see the local women dancing, and of course, then you see a type of dancing which is very interesting for tourists. You have to dance between the bamboo poles as they're moved around, and of course, it's difficult. And when the tourists visit this place, they always try this, and it leads to a lot of laughing and excitement. So here's another innovation in tourism, in a tour that has been developed in this village, and although it's quite small scale, is very successful. Next one. Let's go to the next slide. Oh, here's one from Australia that I thought might be interesting. Again, it's a small scale tour where people visit Aboriginal attraction in North Queensland, and they learn about Aboriginal culture. So you get an opportunity to hear a presentation, meet some local Aboriginal people, and also, importantly, you get to engage with them and learn about how they decorate their bodies and so on. It's a lot of fun. And I've taken some groups of Indonesian people to this place, and everyone usually enjoys it. Luckily, again, or not luckily, but it is actually located about an hour from the main tourist hub, which is Cairns in North Queensland. So again, access is good. The resource is culture, and it's been transformed into quite an interesting tourism product, which many international visitors like to see. Next. So now we're in Sulawesi. Ramang is a new geopark. So it's just recently received World Heritage accreditation. It's the newest World Heritage site in Indonesia, geotourism site. Wonderful to see. Now, in this place, you see, getting World Heritage listing doesn't necessarily lead to increased income for local people. You need innovation and entrepreneurship to make this happen. There is already some tourism in this area, so you'll see some photos. The main tour that you do is by boat. The villages were already had boats, so they take tourists along this creek or river, and into the village, and then you go to have a walking tour around this village and into some of the scenic parts. And there's a restaurant there. So again, this is an area where local people have been helped to develop a new tourism product to make money. And there's a couple of ways they do that. One is through restaurants, one is through a tour. Quite successful. But the interesting thing is that tour was developed maybe 10 years ago, and there has been no innovation in other tourism products since then. So what's going wrong? For some reason, the local people aren't being particularly innovative, despite having the resources that would be useful for tourists. So let's go to the next slide. So if we move to the next slide. Okay, so now I'm not sure, I don't think you'll be able to see this, but so this is the same place. This is also Ramang in Sulawesi. And when I was there and visited the location on this walking tour, we were coming back at night and the guide said, oh, look, by the way, there's some bats. Now, I'm not sure if you can see it very clearly in this photo. No, so yeah, in this photo, but you'll see across the screen in both of the photos, there's sort of a very fine points, dark spots, like a wave. Well, that's actually the bats coming out of a cave and going off to eat fruit or to travel around at nighttime. So they, at around about 6 o'clock every night, they come out in a big wave. And again, I don't know if you can see, but in the right-hand photo, there's a little dot right in the middle, and that's an eagle that waits for the bats to come out and then has dinner for its dinner. So it eats on bats. Now, you can't go into the cave, but this is a fascinating resource. Very interesting for people, I think, to see. But it hasn't yet been developed into a tourism product, even though many of the tourists who already go to Ramang would be interested in seeing it. So this is, if you like, a failure of entrepreneurship. The opportunities are there, but the local people haven't taken advantage of it. Interesting. And coincidentally, so the group that I'm working with in this area, they will actually be developing this bat tour, hopefully by January next year. So we'll see. So next, let's go on to the next one. Oh, here's a man. His name is Alex Wasserman, and he was in the tourism industry in Bali. He decided to go back to his village in Papua in order to become a bird watcher. So this is one of the few places in the world where you can see the bird of paradise. And Alex has become a world-renowned bird watching tour guide. And he's been shut down by COVID over the past 2 years, but things are starting to come back on track, and people are willing to pay lots of money to see a bird like the bird of paradise. And so this guy is an entrepreneur, a tourism entrepreneur, who is capitalizing on the resources, the natural resources that are in the area. And also he is providing other services as well, such as beds, and he's got a lodge there. So interesting tourism product based on his innovation. Next. Oh, And now this is fascinating. This one, I don't know if you can see the bottom center photo. That's maybe a bit unclear, but that spotted thing in the water is a whale shark. And whale sharks grow maybe 4 meters long, 5 meters long. They're enormous things. Now, this is one of the few places in the world where you can see whale sharks every day or whenever they're available. So what happens is the fishermen collect fish during the night, and at sunrise they haul in the catch, and of course they throw away the fish that are too small. So what happens is the whale sharks come to eat the fish. So you have an opportunity to get close to whale sharks. This is a product which was developed by, if you see the top right-hand photo, the lady on the left-hand side is Lita. She worked for, I think it was an international NGO, and she helped to develop this tour so that the local people would protect the whale sharks. So this is sort of like sponsored entrepreneurship. It's entrepreneurship which is helped by external bodies so that local people can benefit. Next one. Yep. Oh, and one, I'm sure Dr. Sari might remember. This is in Padang. Maybe people listening, watching have been here. If you look down to the bottom central photo, you'll see Sari. Dr. Sari is the third person from the left, or the second person from the right, looking very lovely in her traditional costume. What a wonderful tourism product. So this is about taking a resource, a palace, and making it into a way for local people to earn money. And what they've done is the entrepreneurship in this area is to say, well, we have a museum, but to turn it into a tourism product, let's allow people to rent traditional clothes and pay us money to rent them. So, and this, of course, is lovely for tourists. They love to rent these clothes, get their photo taken, and send it to their friends, willing to pay money to do that. So, example of entrepreneurship, innovation in tourism. Next. So, what can we learn from these different examples? Well, there's a couple of things. You certainly need to be a successful tourism innovation, to be a successful product, you need a good location. So you need to be within about an hour's drive of the main tourism hub. Very difficult to make a remote product on the top of a mountain somewhere successful. So you need some understanding of how tourism works, and to think about it as a business when you're thinking about the tourism product. The second thing is you need some uniqueness, some point of difference. And for example, I did notice that in the previous presentation we had food from Padang, or from South Sulawesi. That's a point of difference. People are aware of it, and so it's worth. It has value for people to buy. Similarly, in tourism, you need to think, I can't just produce anything. I need to make it into a product which has something unique and different about it. But importantly, it's very difficult to do that if you don't have some pre-existing knowledge, expertise in knowing how tourism operates as a business or as an industry. And so you can often have a resource, a unique resource, but that's different from having a tourism product. You need to be able to turn the food of Ternate into something suitable for a restaurant, or you need to be able to turn a village and its culture into an attraction for tourists. You need to be able to turn a museum, which is interesting, into something that's where you can add value through renting clothes. So innovation in tourism requires the resource that's unique and located well, but then it requires the skills of the people running the product to know exactly how to turn it into a tourism attraction. And of course, those people working in the industry, in the business, have to have language skills, skills in hospitality, and business skills. So in other words, what I'm saying is entrepreneurship in tourism in Indonesia and in other places, especially for smaller micro or village people, micro businesses or villages, they need entrepreneurship. They need to be able to identify the resource, connect it to a tourism product, and then to develop the language and hospitality and business skills they need. And what I've noticed in Indonesia and in other countries is that sometimes an NGO or an external body will come in and say, hey, you've got a great tourism product, let's develop it. And they develop it, but they end up not training the local people in the business skills and other skills they need. So what happens is while the NGO is with that village operating, then the product works well. But as soon as they leave, the people who are running it don't have the right skills and even aren't empowered to do it. They've been reliant upon this external body. So the question I've got for you is, I think after crises, disasters, but more generally after COVID, we need to develop tourism in Indonesia, and it's especially useful for delivering money to local people. And there are many resources which are unique and close to major hubs. But what's missing is the skills and expertise to train people and so that the resource becomes a tourism product. And I would challenge the group to think, can we actually teach these skills? How do we do it? Next slide, please. So what I call this is competencies for innovation. So innovation and entrepreneurship don't just happen. Okay. A lot of the reasons why a business might be innovative and successful is because of the competencies that individual people within the business have. Okay. So that the person who spoke to us last, he is a successful entrepreneur. He has these competencies, right? He's articulate. He's able to talk about his business. He has business skills. He's got a unique product and so on. But those competencies may be missing in smaller entrepreneurs and smaller in villages and things. So let's move on. So what are they? What are these competencies? Let's go to the next slide, please. Well, a competency is just a knowledge, behavior, or skill that allows you to do a task. And in tourism or in entrepreneurship, we often focus on the hard skills, mathematics, learning to run a business, and so on. But the soft competencies that are needed, communication, dealing with other people, innovation, those things are harder to teach. How do we develop these competencies for entrepreneurs? Next slide, please. Well, the first thing, of course, is to recognize the need for innovation. And perhaps as academics, we could actually build the development of these competencies into our education. But what I've been doing in Indonesia is working on providing potential innovators and entrepreneurs with real world experience, and getting them to actually develop their competencies during the training. And so I want to reflect on some of those things. Next slide, please. So the work that I've been doing is it's through the Australia Awards funding from the Australian government. It's the Sustainable Tourism for Regional Growth short course. So this is a 6-month short course that we do, where there are 25 qualified and motivated people who spend 6 months learning about tourism, but also developing their competencies by actually doing a project, their own project. Next slide, please. Next slide. So why does this work? Well, we've had some quite significant outcomes in terms of people's actions or careers after this course. Why does it work? Well, first of all, travel to Australia. The idea that an entrepreneur from Indonesia is going to travel to Australia is motivating. So they want to be successful. We provide a mix of site visits, expert presentations and lectures over 2 weeks in Australia, as well as 2 times in Indonesia as well. But I think, importantly, it works because each participant must develop and complete a project that they own. So entrepreneurship is not something that you can easily teach in a classroom. It's what I would call an experiential skill. You need to learn it by doing. And of course, another motivation for participants is they have to report back their results of their project at the end of the course. So social pressure means that they are motivated to complete a successful project. And also, the other thing that happens, one of the other reasons why this is successful, is that they develop relationships within the group that help them after they finish. So tourism, one of the significant things that you need to be an entrepreneur in tourism is to have good connections to other tourism people. So we help to develop that. Next. Okay, so thank you. So that's just that presentation was a little bit about entrepreneurship and innovation and how you can try and encourage and develop those competencies. So I think that we don't really spend enough time getting our students to actually be entrepreneurs rather than learning from books and things. And those same principles apply not just to students, but to micro entrepreneurs. If you want to have a successful micro entrepreneur, you may need to work with them over even a year or two in order to help them to develop the skills and recognize the resources and transform them into tourism products. And once they get it and they have the connections, then they can develop further. Okay. So thank you. That's some suggestions. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Professor Noel Scott. Actually, we are going to be having the Q&A session that will be led by Mr. Doni Eros. Are you here? Mr. Doni Eros, are you here?
Nadia.
Okay, thank you so much. And the next talk would be the Q&A session will be moderated by Mr. Doni. To Mr. Doni Eros, time is yours.
Hello, Mr. Noel.
Hey,
Nice to meet you again.
you're looking marvelous. You're looking
Thank you.
intelligent
With
and active.
with the glasses on, yeah. Anyway, as has been delivered by Habibi, now we come to the Q&A session. I see two participants raising hands, Miss Endah Palupi and Miss Anna. So you are welcome to ask the question. Ibu Endah Palupi first.
Hello.
Hello.
Yes, sorry. I have a problem with my computer.
We can hear you.
Yes,
No
okay.
problem.
Yes, Eros, you can call me Uni. Hello, Noel. Sorry if I just call your name because I'm not used to call Mr. or Miss to anybody. My name is Uni. I'm actually we are in the same university with Eros. We're from the same organizations actually. I am an MBA graduate from Riga Technical University for Innovations and Entrepreneurships. I graduated last year, so innovations and entrepreneurship will be becomes my concern since ever. And I also work for local NGO. It's also for my thesis about helping to improve the business plan for women groups in West Sumatra in the Nagari, in the village in West Sumatra. They are a traditional weaving group for the natural dye. So working with this people and also with the innovations, I realized very much, and I also have used to have discussions with Eros as well, that for the innovations and entrepreneurships, it's not a one-night work, of course, but I think the baseline, the line for this product, I think we should also have to shift the mindset. As Indonesians, we need to be humble, to admit that there are several mindset that we need to shift. For example, most of us see a tourist or somebody who can travel as someone who has a lot of money. So we make them as a cash cow. Oh, because you're a tourist, so you come from abroad or you come from Java, so you have extra money. Okay, so let's charge you more. It is okay. I mean, I also know that in some countries there are systems that charging tourists, local and non-local, differently, but it's official. If we make it as official, then maybe tourists will accept it. But to charge everyone differently or just like season is not really nice. So I think, and also because this is also attended by provincial tourism and tourism departments, maybe I would like to offer also cooperations to work with local groups in the village, because I think we have marvelous ideas, we have marvelous people. We also have now nicer infrastructures to go to some places, but it's, you know, unfortunately, for example, let's go to Mande. A lot of places that it is nice for seeing or for sightseeing to sit is already taken by, I don't know, local vendors, that you cannot just sit peacefully. You have to pay something, you have to buy something. You know, like being a local people here in West Sumatra, like most of the places that I visit, I don't want to visit twice. I saw once and that's it. It's just like to tick the box. Okay, I've been there, I've been there, I've been there, but it's not sustainable. So maybe there is also a feedback for all of us that to work with the community, engagement with the community is very important, and also to make the behavioral changes. It's such an investment. It's not cheap, because we have to work with local communities for maybe several years. So like the investment that we do today, maybe we will see the result maybe in 5 years time, but it's worth to do, I think. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you, Miss Yuni. So I'm calling you Miss. It's okay, yeah. I hope so.
No, it's not. It's called Uni.
Okay, Prof. Noel, I think it worth a response from you, because yeah, 2 points he pointed out. I hope the extra charge for tourists, especially for bule, yeah, and then another extra charge which is not notified or noticed by officials, and places are taken somewhere like that. What is there any cases or something like that happen?
Okay. Well, so Uni, thank you, and I think it's wonderful that you're working with local women's groups to develop their tourism product. In fact, in Ramang, I want you to come to Ramang and help the local women there to develop a restaurant. Okay, I've suggested that to them. Hard to do because you're in West Sumatra, but maybe there's things that you can do in West Sumatra. On the particular issue of extra charges for international tourists, I think the key thing is to explain why there's a charge. So let's say that local people pay $100 and people from overseas pay $150. What you should be saying is the money that is charged goes directly to help the local people, right? Or so you don't just say we're getting more money from you. You say we want to benefit this community as much as we can, and we have, if you like, say you might say the money that we get from international people, this money goes to helping the local school or to improving something. So if you can provide a reason for why there's a difference, then I think that's going to be far more acceptable to international tourists. In terms of developing tourism in villages and things, first of all, let's say for weaving, you mentioned weaving. Okay. One of the key issues here is that I have run across maybe 20 places in Indonesia which are developing or have traditional weaving that they display to tourists. Okay, so if you go to Sade, which is in Lombok, near in the south of Lombok, you can see an old woman, and you can sit down and do a bit of weaving, and then you can buy the cloth. It is interesting, just as an aside, that in Australia, our parents or my grandparents would have done not weaving, but they would have done knitting or created their own clothes. In Indonesia, your parents have probably been used to creating their own clothes. So there's a tradition in the villages, and across Indonesia, all those people still have those skills. So it can be interesting to show to tourists. The problem is, while showing people the skills is interesting, buying the traditional products is more difficult, or selling them is more difficult, because if you look at every tourism village or every weaving village in Indonesia, most of them are similar. I know that you might think that they're different, but from a tourist perspective, they're fairly similar. And all of them use traditional dyes and so on. And also, unfortunately, most of the patterns that people are making are, excuse me, just to be honest, boring to younger people. So there's a couple of things that you need to do if you wanted to develop this. You've got to understand the market for souvenirs, right? And certainly the price points. So it could be that instead of selling a whole cloth, you sell a smaller piece at a lower price, right? Now, that may be difficult, I'm not sure. Secondly, you may think that you're working in the souvenir market, but probably, or you certainly could be working in the art market. So if you can turn these beautiful weavings into art, which is hung on the wall, using maybe slightly different patterns or even non-traditional colors, then you might be able to sell it for 10 times the value. So that's what happened in Ubud, in Bali. In Ubud, when I first went there in 1979, people were selling batik cloth, but they were starting to also sell batik art. And they would sell the batik cloth for, I don't know, $10, and they'd sell the paintings for $200. So problem, that requires new skills, or at least innovation and entrepreneurship amongst the people working in the village, or someone needs to help with them with that, okay? Certainly, and it does take time, but perhaps you as an outsider, a person who can understand the market, may be able to provide them with insights and suggestions so that they can maybe change what they're doing a bit and become more innovative and entrepreneurial.
Yeah, thank you, Noel.
Okay, thank you, Prof. Noel. I would like to explain a little bit in Bahasa Indonesia to our audience who cannot speak in Bahasa Indonesia. Jadi Bapak Ibu semuanya, ada 2 poin sebenarnya yang disampaikan oleh Noel dan yang dipertanyakan juga oleh Ibu Yuni. Pertama, ada extra charge biasanya untuk turis asing, bule terutama. Lalu menurut Prof. Noel itu tidak apa-apa asalkan narasi yang dibangun dari extra charge itu adalah kontribusi langsung dari turis asing kepada masyarakat lokal. Jadi ada semacam narasi hero yang terbangun dari extra charge itu, bukan hanya untuk semata-mata ya karena orang asing uangnya lebih banyak dia di charge ekstra gitu. Berikanlah narasi yang membuat mereka merasa berkontribusi. Itu juga bagian dari tourism value yang mungkin bisa dijual kalau memang, karena service yang diberikan kepada international turis juga mungkin berbeda. Lokal manajemen juga mungkin harus bisa berbahasa Inggris, jadi memang ekstra effort gitu ya. Lalu yang kedua tadi isu tentang tenunan tradisional ya, yang kebetulan Ibu Yuni juga aktif di komunitas perempuan yang bergerak di bidang tenunan dan diundang oleh Pak Noel ke Ramang-Ramang. Is it Ramang-Ramang ya, Prof. Noel? So permasalahan utama yang disinggung oleh Pak Noel dari perspektif kita sebagai orang lokal mungkin melihat semua tenunan itu unik dan punya value. Tapi value itu adalah value yang di kita, yang di budaya kita. Di mata international turis yang tidak melekat pada budaya itu, terus terang kata Pak Noel, itu membosankan, terutama pola yang dilekatkan kepada tenunan itu. Lalu jenis benang yang dipakai juga membosankan. Mungkin harus, terutama bagi anak muda, mungkin perlu inovasi, membuat tenunan yang memang cocok dengan selera anak muda dan memang secara bahan dan pola juga lebih cocok untuk dibawa ke negara si turis tersebut. Tapi ada satu strategi lagi, mungkin jika tenunan itu dijadikan sebuah seni, sebuah karya seni, bukan produk fashion, tapi produk seni gitu ya. Itu mungkin bisa dijual 10 kali lipat lebih mahal, karena seni kan harganya memang tidak ada ya. Itu karena seni kan unik satu-satunya. Jadi mungkin pengembangannya bisa kepada produk tenunan yang berwujud kepada produk seni, tidak hanya pakaian. Begitu. Oke, next question from Ibu Ana, please. Welcome Ibu Ana.
Okay, thank you. Can you hear my voice?
Yes, loud and clear.
Yes, I'm so sorry. I cannot open my camera because something happened in my mobile phone.
Oh,
so I'm
okay.
so sorry then. Hi, Noel. This is Anna speaking. How is going, Mike?
Excellent.
Hello. So it's nice to have your presentation this morning, Noel. And you know, you make up my mind, but I have some question for you. So is it
Good.
okay?
Of course.
Right. So to for the tourism area, we have for several aspects for preparation and for the running, and then after we have like tourism area. So from your point of view, what is the best one to do that for preparation and for running and for after the tourism area finish? Thank you.
I'm sorry, Anna. I don't quite understand the question. Could you help me, please? I'm just a poor male, so I don't probably understand what's happening.
Yes. So, you know, to build the tourism area, we need preparation, right? So what is the good preparation?
To build a tourism area.
Yes. And then when the tourism area running, what should we do?
Oh,
and
well.
then we need to call back the tourists, come back to our tourism area. So what we should do?
Okay. Well,
Thank you.
yeah, good question, Anna, but I need more information. You can't get away with that so easily. So you'll need to tell me more about the tourism, the type of tourism area you want to develop. Is it
like geopark?
Yeah. Ah,
geopark, yeah.
Okay. All right. Cool. Well, do you have a particular geopark in mind, or just in general?
I think in general.
Okay. So let me give you an example from I've been involved with 3 geoparks. There's Rinjani, there's Maras Pankip, and there's another one on Sumbawa, name I forgot. So running developing a geopark is a big thing. and in fact, if you want it to be listed as like a national or international geopark, there's a lot of work to do. The first thing that they normally do is they will identify the key resources, the points of interest, the things that are unusual about a geopark. It might be the volcano, it might be, I think in West Sumatra, there's a fault line that runs along in the mountains, which is a feature. So you have to identify the resources, but then you have to work out how you turn those into a tourism product. So if you have a fault line, how will people actually visit that fault line? Is it going to be through a walking tour, or is it going to be by car? Will they be able to go and stay the night in a hotel, or will it be something where there's a restaurant? So there's many different types of ways that you can commercialize a tourism resource, and you need to identify those main things, because ultimately the reason you are developing these resources as geoparks is in order to provide protection for them and to make money for local people. So unless you can commercialize them, that is collect money in some way from them, leave them alone, don't touch them. If you can, then the second thing is you have to work out how local people will actually benefit. So if there's a tour that's going to see some interesting geological feature, who's going to be running the tour and how will the local people benefit? Right? So that's a critical issue. Once you've done some planning and you've identified the resources and the opportunities for commercialization, then you start to get into the actual development phase. So you have to think about training staff, getting the management structure of the geopark in place, making sure that the people in the geopark have developed the laws and regulations that are needed to look after the park. Then you start to do promotion and marketing along with the education and training. And after you do all that, then you have to make sure that your geopark is actually performing as you expected. So that's the monitoring and evaluation. And that then becomes a cycle. Start with the planning, implementation, management, and start again. But starting a geopark is a big thing. And if you were interested in this, I think the best thing would, there is a geotourism conference in Indonesia once a year. The last couple of times I've attended, it's been in Lombok at Mount Rinjani. So maybe there's some way that you could connect into those people and learn about it. I believe there's also an international geopark facility in Langkawi where they have lots of information about geoparks and things. So if you're thinking about it, start by doing your research, understanding all the issues, identify the resources, start to do, and then maybe sit back and think, is this what I want to do? That's how I'd start it, but it's going to take you a couple of years. So does that help, Anna? Did I make sense?
No, that's nice. Thank you.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you, Ibu Ana and Prof. Noel. So basically, geopark, you need to register to international UNESCO or something in order to build the destination, Prof. Noel. In your opinion?
Well, in Indonesia, there are two levels. There's national geoparks, and then there's international ones. So I think there's many national geoparks in Indonesia. And the government is then going through and saying, well, this is a national park, can it be an international one? And I think they only do one of those a year, I think. So if you want to become an international one, then you have to apply to UNESCO, and you have some examination, or, you know, there's a examination and so on. And they go through, and those things, you know, so the things that they're interested in are, how is the local, what's unique about this place and why should we protect it? Is it being protected now? How and what is the management structure that's doing the protection? What's the management structure that's enabling local people to benefit? And then, you know, how's it going? How's it operating? So all of those things are done, and then the UNESCO people come along, they send an expert to go and examine it.
Okay, thank you. I would like to explain bahasa Indonesia first. Yeah. So, Ibu Ana dan yang lainnya, untuk pertanyaan Ibu Ana ini kan bagaimana membangun destinasi pariwisata ya. Di sini tipenya geopark. Menurut Prof. Noel, kalau geopark tentu yang pertama harus dicari adalah identifikasi dulu apa saja resource yang bisa atau potensi yang bisa dijadikan pariwisata di situ. Lalu ciptakan cara bagaimana turis akan bisa menikmatinya. Seperti kalau itu gunung berapi, bagaimana menikmati gunung berapi itu gitu. Seperti di Bromo ada kuda, ada jalan-jalan ke kawah, dan Bromo juga punya festival. Nah, kalau geoparknya yang di Ibu Ana ini bagaimana gitu. Lalu yang paling penting adalah siapa manajemennya. Harusnya ada badan pengelola. Sebenarnya lebih simpel, kata Prof. Noel tadi, kalau seandainya ada usaha untuk memasukkan ke geopark nasional, jadi nanti ada kriteria yang harus dilengkapi. Tentu dalam usaha melengkapi kriteria itu, secara otomatis destinasi geopark itu akan terbangun demi mengisi semua persyaratan yang diminta di borangnya. Setelah di nasional, bisa mendaftarkan juga ke UNESCO untuk menjadi Global Geopark, tapi ini hanya 1 kali setahun, dan tentu kalau keunikannya sudah ada di geopark yang lain, ini mungkin akan agak sulit. Tapi kalau seandainya keunikan geologinya berbeda dari yang lain, ini bisa kemungkinan diusulkan. Tapi sekali lagi yang paling penting adalah bagaimana, karena ini geopark, apakah ini terjaga dengan baik sekarang? Apakah program pariwisata bisa melestarikannya atau justru akan merusaknya? Kalau merusaknya mungkin akan tidak bagus untuk geopark itu sendiri. Tapi kalau tujuannya adalah melestarikan dan membuat masyarakat lokal dan dunia menjadi dapat menikmati fenomena geologis dan alam serta kekayaan hayati dan yang lainnya di sekitar geopark itu akan bisa menarik perhatian international turis dan lokal turis, karena isunya adalah green dan sustainable kalau untuk geopark.
Ya Pak, kebetulan kita di Sumatera Barat kan ada Siloke Geopark, saya udah ke situ. Nah itu mereka sedang berjuang untuk diakui oleh UNESCO.
Iya.
Nah, saya tertarik, wah ini ya lumayan juga ini kalau misalnya ini kan bisa mendatangkan turis ke Sumatera Barat. Terima kasih Pak.
Ya, terima kasih Ibu Ana. So, Ibu Ana said there is a Siloke. So in West Sumatra there are several places. There is being. Oh, yeah, Pak Habibie, can you please your microphone? Such as Siloke and Geopark Minangkabau in Harau and also in Gua Batu Kapal. And now Danau Singkara is also being proposed as the national geopark. But none of these geopark is yet managed to be submitted to the UNESCO because of technical staff, such as the management and else.
Sure, yeah, and so you know, there's lots of expertise on this in Indonesia. there are people in Rinjani and now in Maras Pancap that have been through this process. And I would encourage you to talk to them and get some ideas about how to, tips and lessons on how to do it. So one of the interesting things about entrepreneurs is that they use their network, right? So they have relationships with other people who work in the same area. And if they need any information, they can just go and say, hey, can you tell me what's this stuff about UNESCO? How do I do that? So one of the things I notice in Indonesia a little bit, and sometimes I see it in Australia as well, is that people don't want to talk to one another, right? The people over there in Lombok don't talk to the people in West Sumatra. And you got to stop that, right? And the more you can talk to one another, the more successful you'll be, right? So Anna, where's Anna? Anna?
Yes, I'm here.
I want you to talk to Dedi, who is the
Dedi?
manager. Dedi is the manager of the Maros Pancap Geopark, right?
Okay.
And you can also talk to Faisal, who's the manager of the Rinjani Geopark, right?
Okay.
Now, what I want you to do is find their numbers, ring them,
Yes.
and
Yep.
say, Noel Scott said that I should contact you, and can you answer this question?
Okay, great.
And then what I want you to do is send me an email,
right,
to tell me what happened.
sure. Okay.
Promise?
Yes, I'm promised. Thank
When will you do that by?
As soon as possible.
No. If you're an entrepreneur, you don't
Yeah.
say as soon as possible. You say, I'll do it by next Tuesday.
Yeah. Okay. So I must find the number then.
Yeah, that's not my problem. That's your problem. Because remember,
Right.
you are an entrepreneur.
Sure. Okay.
You have to do all these things: motivation, getting excited to finish your project. Okay.
Okay.
Okay then. Okay.
So I'll look forward. If you need my email, Sari's got it.
Yes.
Dr. Sari. So you get my email from Sari,
Right.
and you send me that results by next Tuesday.
Okay. I was saying, inshallah.
No, God is on your side. He will make sure that it happens.
Yeah. Okay then. Okay. I'll do my best.
No,
Okay.
not your best. Okay.
Okay.
So
Okay,
I will have the local people actually
Yeah.
for the Siloke Geopark.
I hope Ibu Ana, you can really send a feedback email to Prof. Noel by next Thursday. Yeah.
Tuesday.
Yeah.
Tuesday.
Tuesday. Okay.
Not
Less than a
Thursday,
week.
Tuesday.
Ah.
Less than a week. It's pressure.
Less than a week.
So you
Wow.
see, this
Okay.
but you see, this is one of the competencies that people require if they are to be innovative and entrepreneurial. It's called, you might call it a sense of urgency. So it's about not thinking that I'll do it sometime, but actually saying, hey, this is important. I will do it by this date. And then thinking, okay, well, I said I would do it by that date. I will do it. And it's often hard, but it means things get done. Okay.
Anyway, it was
Thank you.
Yeah, it's a great push from Prof. Noel for everyone.
Yeah.
And stop competing among us in Indonesia and start collaborating. Yeah, that's a
very good message from Noel.
Yeah.
Appreciate it.
Oh, look, of course. So mostly I know about tourism, right? And in tourism, they talk about co-opetition, competing and cooperating.
Mhm.
Now, you don't have to cooperate with people about everything, but you also have to think, are you actually competing with those people, or is it going to be better if you work together? And I got to say, if you were trying to attract people to Indonesia to go to a geopark, it would probably be easier to work together
Mhm.
to develop the image of Indonesia as a geopark, and then to compete as to which one they go to. Huh? So that's called co-opetition.
Co-opetition is a new word for today. Thank you very much, Prof. Noel. I believe there are more questions, but we are the time is due, and it's about it's the time for Dr. Natasha, ya, 10:30 ya, Ibu Sari, by Sejel ya. So thank you very much for Prof. Noel. It's very interesting and contributive presentations, and your suggestions to Ibu Yuni and to Ibu Ana is really valuable, because I know Ibu Yuni has been struggling how to help this woman in to sell their weaving product, and also Ibu Ana in her village to develop this geopark. So I hope after this, Ibu Yuni and Ibu Ana really do the homework and give you a feedback email very soon. Thank you very much.
Next Tuesday.
Next Tuesday. Okay.
Okay, now.
Thank you, Noel.
Thank you. Okay, now